In this lesson, we're going to take a look at the pituitary gland. The pituitary gland is a small gland located in the cranium, and it sits in this groove or this fossa known as the sella turcica, and it's also known as the hypophysis. Now, it's made up of three different divisions. One's the infundibulum, then there's the posterior pituitary gland, and then the anterior pituitary gland. The infundibulum is also known as the hypophyseal stalk, which actually comes down here, and it's a connection between the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland. So that's how they talk to each other. Then there's the posterior pituitary gland, known as the neurohypophysis, and it actually functions with the infundibulum. Now, the anterior pituitary gland is known as the adenohypophysis, and it attaches to the posterior pituitary gland, and it's going to control the majority of those endocrine hormones. So if we draw a picture of it like this is the infundibulum, and this is the posterior pituitary gland, and then this is the anterior pituitary gland. Now, in the posterior pituitary gland, there are two hormones that we look at. The first one is oxytocin. The second is antidiuretic hormone. Oxytocin is involved in smooth muscle contraction of the uterus during labor. It's also responsible for lactation and the ejection of milk. So with the suckling response of babies, it actually stimulates the release of oxytocin from the posterior pituitary gland and then promotes the ejection of milk from the lactating breast. Now, antidiuretic hormone, or ADH as we like to call it, promotes the retention of water in the kidneys. Now let's look at the word antidiuretic. Anti means none or not, and diuretic means to diurese. And what that means is the excretion of water. So what we want is none or non excretion of water from the kidneys. So that means we want to hold on to water. And so that's where this promoting the retention of water in the kidneys comes from. Now, this comes into play with two separate conditions, which there are both excellent lessons on, and I encourage you to check those out for more information. But the first one is diabetes insipidus and syndrome of inappropriate antidiuretic hormone. Now, with DI, or diabetes insipidus, that means there's not enough ADH. So that means there's not enough of this hormone to say we're going to hold on to water. So that means that there's going to be an increase of urine output. Now, with syndrome of inappropriate antidiuretic hormone, that means that there is too much ADH. So there is a signal coming from the pituitary gland to the kidneys that says, we're going to keep holding on to water, we're going to keep holding on to water, we're going to keep holding on to water. And what happens to the urine output? Well, urine output is going to decrease. Like I said, excellent lessons on those, so I encourage you to check those out. Now, in the anterior pituitary gland, there are two sets of hormones that we look at. First is trophic hormones, and then the second one are releasing hormones. With trophic hormones, they're going to control the secretion of other glands. So this happens to the hypothalamus hypophyseal portal system, and then there are releasing hormones. Now, releasing hormones are made in the hypothalamus, and they enter the anterior pituitary gland, and then they stimulate the secretion of trophic hormones. So if we look at releasing hormones, first are going to stimulate the secretion of trophic hormones, and then those trophic hormones are then going to stimulate the secretion of other hormones throughout the body. Now, the other thing about releasing hormones is that each of those releasing hormones is specific to a trophic hormone. Now, with the anterior pituitary hormone, there are several of them, so let's go through them. First up is the somatotrophic hormone, or growth hormone. And what this hormone does is it stimulates the production or the uptake of amino acids. It also prevents muscle wasting, so it's really responsible for muscle growth. The other thing that it does is it acts like a hyperglycemic agent. So in the event of a low blood sugar, it's actually going to stimulate fat to be used for energy, and it also stimulates this process called glycogenolysis, which helps to convert glycogen to glucose. Now, in the liver, there's this insulin-like growth factor, IGF, which promotes the growth of bone and cartilage. So if there's an excessive secretion of this STH, it's actually going to result in a condition called gigantism, especially in younger people. If there's a decrease in STH, you're going to get this pituitary dwarfism. Now, in adults, if there's an excess secretion of the STH as an adult, this can result in a condition called acromegaly. Now, when we look at reproductive hormones, these are going to be called gonadotropins. And the gonadotropins that we look at are FSH, the follicle stimulating hormone, and then the luteinizing hormone. Now, with the follicle stimulating hormone in women, what it does is it produces eggs and secretes estrogen, whereas in men, it helps to produce sperm. Now, the luteinizing hormone in women does several things, especially during pregnancy. It stimulates late development of the ovarian follicles, it induces ovulation, and it also makes the corpus luteum. Furthermore, it secretes the stimulation of secretion of estrogen and progesterone in women. Now, in men, it stimulates the secretion of testosterone, particularly in the Leydig cells of the testes. Now, there's 4 other hormones that we're going to look at. And this one is, so you've got the adrenocorticotropic hormone, the thyrotropic hormone, the prolactin inhibiting hormone, and prolactin. Now, the adrenocorticotropic hormone, or ACTH, is responsible for controlling the adrenal cortex in the adrenal gland. And what it does first is it stimulates the growth and maintenance of the adrenal gland itself. Then it also helps to stimulate production and secretion of the hormones associated in the adrenal gland. Now, with the thyrotropic hormone, it stimulates the thyroid gland, and it's going to stimulate the production and the secretion of 2/3 of the thyroid hormones, so T3 and T4. Now, for both the thyroid hormone and the adrenal gland hormone, there are lessons on those, so I encourage you to check those out. Now, the other two, prolactin inhibiting hormone and prolactin, are responsible for lactation. Now, what happens is in women, prolactin is going to produce milk in the lactating breast. In men, what happens is it actually affects the Leydig cells and increases the responsiveness of testosterone secretion. In the prolactin inhibiting hormone, it's going to prevent the secretion of prolactin in non-pregnant females. So that will keep lactation from occurring in non-pregnant females. So let's recap. First off, the pituitary gland is located in the sella turcica. Remember, that's that groove or that fossa that sits just behind the eyes. The pituitary gland is broken up into the posterior and anterior portions, the anterior being the adenohypophysis and the posterior being the neurohypophysis. The posterior pituitary gland is going to secrete ADH and oxytocin, and the anterior pituitary gland is going to secrete the releasing hormones and trophic hormones. There are lots of hormones associated with pituitary gland. It's just, there are tons. So you've got oxytocin, ADH, ACTH, which is the adrenocorticotropic hormone, STH, the gonadotropins, the thyroid stimulating hormone, prolactin, and the prolactin inhibiting hormone.
Thanks for watching another nursing.com lesson. Click the link below in the description to watch thousands more lessons over on nursing.com. Also, be sure to hit the subscribe and the little bell to make sure you're reminded when new lessons come out. And if you want to just keep watching more lessons, go ahead and click this video over here to continue learning. Like we always say here at nursing.com, happy nursing.